India visits Ukraine. Zelenskyy meets Modi in Kyiv. Burn, baby, burn. Fires on oil depots in Russia. Energy conference Andriy Yermak. And how and who and why is in civilized world. These topics in more detail by UATV English and me, Henry Keane, bringing the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. India's Narendra Modi is visiting Ukraine's capital of Kyiv today, where the Prime Minister is set for talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and that will be keenly watched by Russia, no doubts about that. Modi's visit comes at a key inflection point in the 2.5-year war, as our forces earlier launched an unprecedented, no less offensive into Russian territory that Moscow is scrambling to counter. Until now, India has refrained from condemning actual Russia's invasion, as it seeks to maintain relations with Moscow, a major supplier of its arms. Yet, parties agreed here in Kyiv on 4 documents between Ukraine and India during this historic, no less, visit of Prime Minister Modi. The areas are medicine, agriculture, humanitarian relations and culture. A joint statement has been prepared on the contents of the Prime Minister's visit regarding the development of strategic partnership between our countries, trade and military technical cooperation. President Zelenskyy emphasized that it is a great honor for Ukraine to host the Prime Minister of friendly India on National Flag Day.
It is very symbolic because it is the first visit of the Prime Minister of India to independent Ukraine on the eve of Independence Day. This visit is very important for all Ukrainians. I really want to personally thank the Prime Minister of India for the fact that he started his visit by commemorating our fallen children who were taken away by the Russian army, who they killed with their aggression.
Zelenskyy also thanked Prime Minister Modi and the people of India for supporting Ukrainian citizens with 16 large humanitarian deliveries. The day before, Modi said during his stay in Warsaw that India believes that no war ends on the battlefield and supports diplomatic efforts to end the war in Ukraine as soon as possible. He added that India is ready to cooperate with other friendly nations to provide as much support as possible to peacekeeping efforts to restore peace in Ukraine. President Zelenskyy and Prime Minister Modi paid tribute to the children who lost their lives as a result of Russia's criminal military aggression. The leaders placed toys at the site of the multimedia martyrology called simply the Children. It was in Kyiv, a location where visitors honored the memory of the fallen young Ukrainians with a moment of silence. Prosecutor General Andriy Kostin filled President Zelenskyy and Narendra Modi in on the history of this exhibition and the practice of deliberate Russian brutal assaults at locations where children were hurt or murdered, including the missile strike on the largest children's hospital, Ohmad-Did. According to the UN Human Rights Office, since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion, 570 Ukrainian children have been murdered. However, this number is not final, unfortunately, as reliable information from the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine is still unavailable. What we know for sure is that the number of victims continues to grow due to constant Russian attacks. A fire that, broke out after an attack by Ukrainian drones at an oil storage facility in Proletarsk, Rostov Oblast, has not been extinguished in 5 days. The fire toll is 47 injured, and the authorities have declared a state of emergency in the city. Russian authorities are diligently fighting the fire, that is true. They even sent priests who held a mass, prayed to God, but that did not help for some reason. On the contrary, even, judging by the fact that the fire is approaching the diesel fuel tanks, it is about to become worse. Some may blame me for my smile and for being sarcastic. Well, I couldn't care less, actually. I just love to watch that against such a flaming background. The owners of oil depots in the region have already begun to sell their depots in this region, but that's not all. Ukrainian troops attacked a train ferry with fuel tanks in the port of Kavkaz. It was later reported that it successfully sank. Yes, successfully sunk. Lovely news. It had a total of 30 large tanks fuel. This was the only train ferry that the Russian actively used to continue to supply their troops in the occupied Ukrainian peninsula of Crimea. And now more good news for us and bad news for the Russian oil industry and refining industries in there does not end there. China has recently significantly reduced its oil purchases from Russia. The volume of oil supplies fell to 1.76 million barrels per day. This is the lowest since September 2022. In July of this year, the total volume of crude oil imports from Russia to China fell by 7.4% compared to July last year. The decline in fuel demand in China has continued over the past few months. If in March 2024 China was increasing the volume of Russian oil imports, then in the second quarter already imports began to decline. By July they fell by 30% compared to March figures. Even the May visit of Russian President Vladimir Putin to Chinese Chairman Xi Jinping could not stop this process in the following month, as the Moscow Times actually admits the decline in demand for Russian raw materials even accelerated. Music to my ears. Head of the Presidential Office of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak, opened and participates in the first expanded thematic meeting of the working group dedicated to the implementation of the energy security point of the peace formula. Representatives from the 40 countries and international organizations involved in the energy security working group participated in the meeting. Yermak noted that due to constant Russian missile and drone attacks on the energy system, Ukraine has already lost over 9 gigawatts of generating capacity, which has significantly worsened the humanitarian and economic situation.
Today's conference truly matters. Firstly, because it's the first of the series of events implementing the decisions of Bergenstock Summit. So I like to thank everyone who participated and supported its final communique. Your determination has allowed us to move forward in realizing our shared peace framework.
The head of the Presidential Office actually emphasized that given the critical importance of energy security and the details of the autumn-winter season that is nearing, we must be ready. The co-heads of the Energy Security Working Group are Denmark, Norway and Poland. The head of the Presidential Office expressed special gratitude to these countries for their leadership and assistance to Ukraine, particularly in preparing this conference. Minister for Climate, Energy and Utilities of Denmark, Lars Agard, emphasized that his country stands by Ukraine in its efforts to build a lasting peace and rebuild the energy system. Norwegian State Secretary of the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy, Astrid Bergman, stressed that assistance to improve energy security is a priority in Norway's support program for Ukraine. Polish Secretary of State of the Ministry of Climate and Environment, Krzysztof Bolesta, noted that during its presidency of the Council of the EU, his country will work towards advancing Ukraine's accession talks, especially with regard to the energy sector integration. Ukrainian Energy Minister Herman Alushenko emphasized the importance of the partner countries' support for Ukraine.
And that is the key messages which we drafted together with you, which is drafted in the joint communique. And of course, first is deliberate unjustified attacks on civil objects comprise a flagrant violation of international humanitarian law and are unacceptable. A comprehensive, just and lasting peace must protect and secure Ukraine's civilian energy infrastructure. This will support the humanitarian situation in Ukraine and the human rights of all Ukrainians. And the international assistance is crucial to rebuild and to develop, as well as to defend energy system against military threats, including through the strengthening of air defense capabilities to Ukraine by the committed countries.
This thematic conference followed the first Peace Summit, where general approaches to the peace framework were actually discussed, and nuclear security, food security and humanitarian issues were discussed in every detail. The goal of this process is to develop a comprehensive peace plan initiated by President Zelenskyy. Following the conference, participants adopted a joint communique. What is a good and obvious sign is that the world that calls itself civilized really shows it was not in vain. It is exactly the case when it comes to help for those in trouble and need. Well, that's it for this episode. It was me, Henry Keane, and our team at UATV English, hopefully to bring again some hard truth in again easy terms for you out there. Please like, share, comment. Your voice matters as it in turn helps Ukrainian voice to be shared worldwide. More to come already on Sunday, so stay safe and tuned for more. Thank you. Goodbye.